Стрессовая ситуация на рынке открывает дорогу проекту.
Stressful situation market opens opportunities for import substitution projects. So innovations have refocused. So can new technological businesses resolve this issue? Can startup become the driving force of a future tech breakthrough? Can small businesses fill the gaps in the structure of industrial production? We will discuss these and other intriguing questions at our next session, which is called Russiantech. Startup is a key to technological independence. And I would like to invite to the stage speakers of this next upcoming station, Oleg Teplov, CEO of Web Ventures. Dmitry Kulish, Skulltech professor. Viktor Fokin, Medspecservice CEO. Semyon Tinyaev, TenChat founder. Dmitry Kurin, Director of Open Innovations and Investments Department of MTS. And of course, our moderator, Alexander Grek, Editor-in-Chief of Tech Insider. Let's welcome them. Hello, dear friends. Import substitution touched even myself. A week ago, I was editor-in-chief of Popular Mechanics, and now I'm editor-in-chief of Tech Insider, because Popular Mechanics, those words have been sanctioned. But we will not be talking about mass media today. We'll be talking about disruption of supply chains and how those problems can be exploited by startups, how they can fit in. I will try to speak as less as possible. Give us wonderful speakers as many chances to speak as possible. The word of welcome goes to Dmitry Kulish from Skulltech, who will paint the general situation in which we are today. Thank you, Alexander. I was supposed to have some slides, 3 slides. It will take me about 5 minutes to cover them. I would like to see them. I prepared them. Excellent. Thanks. Thank you for coming to this important discussion. I'm confident that startups is a key to technological independence, and I was shocked that at this stage at 2 p.m. at one of the panels, they had a very professional, interactive voting with the audience, and audience voted against the statement. No, startups are not a key to import substitution and tech independence. I think the audience followed the logic of the envious people from the oppositional channel. So true tech chains cover the whole world, and we have no chance to enter them. So this is a very nefarious perspective, but Skulltech is mostly about science. Once you see my 3 slides, Skulltech may seem like a mix of a business school and a venture fund. It's not so. Skulltech is about science. And Viktor Vekselberg, the chairman of Skulltech, made a wonderful introduction this morning. Our main achievement that in science and publications we skyrocketed and made it to global ratings, and we are very happy with our professors. And Skulltech is about our professors. Let me name some of them. I may forget some of them, but we are proud of mathematician Marshakov, Squishmer, Dunaev, Aslevets, physical Toma Bakumov, Aganov, professor. I may forget some. Mikhail Gelfand, Chumakov. Okay. So that's Skulltech. I also invite you all tomorrow we'll have a 3-hour pitch marathon on the small stage between the pond and the Hypercube building. Skulltech will be there. 32 projects in different areas with our technologies, and you'll see the fire in the eyes of our students. So speaking of technological independence, one of the first business cases in MBA schools is a bankruptcy of Ford, of the Ford company. We know that Henry Ford was a great engineer who invented the car, and a new era in humanity got started. But he also had a terrible bankruptcy when Chevrolet got on him because he didn't want to do marketing. And he thought that technological independence should be right in his hand. And MBA students learned that Henry Ford had a personal herd of cows whose skin was used for his cars. That means that excessive integration is harmful, just as the lack of integration. So, of course, tech independence of Russia is not a production of nails locally. We can train people to make nails in those special places for it, but our task is to have a monopoly position in value chains. We need to add something to the world, something that they cannot do without. This is what happens with energy sources. They used to tell us, oh, you're a gas station country, but I know that a gas station is not a simple thing, because we have a very rich department, oil and gas department, Skulltech. So that's why they cannot exclude us from their energy supply chains. We should achieve the same thing in other areas. Academician Kuleshov gave an interview to Kommersant yesterday where he noted that they all scare us with microchips, but we know that in microelectronics there's one bottleneck. It's lithography. Lithography of sophisticated chips, because it requires a lot of complicated software and also sophisticated machinery that also are based on chips and software. So lithography startup can break that wall for Russia and can make us a participant of a global microchips market. So this is what we tell our students: relax about analysis of this industry. You don't need this. Don't be bogged down with it. Find a technology that inspires you. Find a technology that is driving you. Find a consumer, build a prototype, demonstrate it to the consumer, and then they'll be running after you. They will tell you, I want this. Then you'll become a startup, an innovator, and then Russia will have technological independence. And of course, it is important to remember that innovations are primarily about science, then about markets, then prototyping, then demonstrating that to the customer, and it's an interactive process. So what are we proud of at Skulltech? So Viktor Felixovich mentioned that we have a success criterion is not about a scientific article, it's about implementation. So with all due respect to our professors, we always inspire them to do something about implementation. So 4 very telling examples of actual startups at Skolkovo, in whom I participate as business angel. Why 4 startups? Because they're very advanced. They have prototypes, they have certificates, and I would like to demonstrate a little more. The first one, OncoDiag. There is a whole area of treating hard cancer types. So when people hear about cancer, in most cases, 80% case is those hard tumors. So, but diagnostics is difficult, especially after chemotherapy. It's difficult. It should be diagnosed, biopsy, is difficult and pricey, and liquid biopsy gets billions of investments. And here, Technopark, it's right there. So we have OncoDiag, and they developed a wonderful technological of liquid biopsy of hard tumors. And of course, it's linked to AI, which is in the cloud. Unless you have AI in the cloud, you get no respect from others. So of course we have AI in the cloud. We have a certificate. We had a clinic in the Moscow city center. We're ready for implementation. But let me tell you on the next slide about what is happening and what is happening with it. Pharmadiol, innovative coagulant with wonderful preclinical and clinical trials, partially funded by the Skolkovo Foundation.
So partly it's financed by a very romantic investor who got us several million rubles. We bring it to the doctors and they're saying, oh no, it's an innovative drug, this is risky, and we are actually shocked there. We're saying, just yesterday you told us that we need to use innovative products, that the old generics are immoral and unethical. And they're saying, well, yes, we did say that. We were talking about the big pharma products. So right now generic is big pharma and we're scared by your drugs. Okay, we'll speak about it later. Qubit, the continuous cardio monitoring for several channels. If we have a goal of monitoring whether our train driver is okay, we need to have this multi-channel cardio monitor, and people think that the problem is solved. No, it is solved only by Medtronic only, with the complicated halter, which is very expensive, and Qubit is solving this problem. And finally, skin pores, the silicon nano needles, which can have you diagnosed for glucose level or do the injection, and everything is controlled by AI in the cloud. As you might imagine and might have guessed, since we're talking about the import and replacement, this is my last slide. I'm going to finish very soon. Alexander, everything's fine? 1 minute left. Okay, minute. Minutes. Okay, I'll take minutes and a half. As you understood from my hints, the startups had their problems. OncoDiag, we go to oncologists and we're saying, okay, we'll save lives with you, and they were saying, okay, we're good on our own. Pharmadiol, we bring them to them and they're saying, we have generics from Big Pharma, we love them, they're trustworthy and stuff like this. That, okay, and we get shocked. I honestly checked whether we have these words in our program. So, and this is once again shocked, and I would say positively shocking. So, crisis is translated from Chinese as opportunity, and the crisis. Actually, they have 5 letters for this, the hieroglyphs. And if we try to translate the 3 remaining ones, this is very inspiring. I would translate it as follows. Congratulations. If you read until this point, the danger is already behind you. Only opportunity is remaining. Honestly, these 5 hieroglyphs are more or less like translated like this. So since we are here on Startup Village and Mr. Medvedev came to us and we didn't freeze to death, so the danger is behind us indeed. So we have opportunities only. In OncoDiag, we are convinced that we will push it through, and the doctors won't be that relaxed. They won't be spending expensive products anymore. We will get there, and this will be the first in the world liquid biopsy for solid tumors. In Pharmadiol, We already have evidence of sabotage by Ministry of Medicine, and we'll go to court, and we will get them to go to court with us. And once again, this was a wonderful period of time when we wouldn't be supported by the courts, but now we would for sure. But since nobody was fired for buying IBM, no, it's not about corruption, it's about alleviating risks. And thanks God, today we won't be able to alleviate risks. We have to risk altogether. And for startups, this is a great news. And since okay, Medtronic is leaving Russia. For IQB, this is a gift. Somebody would think that this is a tragedy. I am sympathizing to these people, but IQB has this wonderful market, and we will prove that we're better than Medtronic. And lastly, the people who hoped to go to Silicon Valley and to go to wonderful markets. You have to understand, this is foreign market. It's huge, but it's not yours. You will be thrown into a pool with piranhas, and they will start eating you, and will get only 5% of your share, and 95% will be spent without you. If somebody was watching the movie by the journalist Dud, he was actually showing that things are not that wonderful there. And here we have a smaller market, but it's ours. Be happy that you're locked here. Overcome this, and the world will come to you after that. Thank you for this wonderful speech. Dear friends, is the corporation ready to involve active startups in your business, or are we going to go to Asian companies? And Dmitry Kurin is going to tell us about this, Director on Investments of MTS, the corporate customer. The big one. Hi everyone, it's very interesting to discuss these things. When we're talking about the closed market as well, we can speak about it for a very long time. We have been talking about how to work with startups, how corporations are working with startups. To put it mildly and shortly, in the last 4 or 3 years, the corporations, most of them, about 200 top companies, have launched such a tool of working with startups. This is a good news, this is a wonderful trend for venture, for the support of the entrepreneurs, and it's quite clear that many people have changed their priorities and resources have changed. Somebody has rolled out new plans and programs. So once again, we're talking about the closed venture market, big or small. Everybody has their own adventures. Speaking about unicorns, the measure of price of the startup, which is being used all over the world, we shouldn't go anywhere far. So in the last 10-15 years, we had about 10 unicorns max. And these companies which are developing outside Russia, so they are known to us, for example, Miro, TradingView, or the company Revolut Finances, co-founded in Russia. Somebody would call them not Russian, of course, but once again, there are Russian founders. Why I'm saying this? The potential of ours is huge as a country, as an innovator, as a developer, the technological researcher. We just need to understand how to make these products, both of the Russian scale and the world scale, as it was said, to compete for the chains of custody and to be important element of this whole thing. What do we need for that? Once again, it's built up of several factors. First of all, the team. Somebody will say market. Somebody will say capital, financing. Somebody will say partner. Corporate, not corporate, doesn't matter. Without these parts, achieving success both on Russian and global market is impossible. We can see these examples, and we know them all. Getting back to Russian corporations, during the last 2 years we have a rating on how the corporations are working with startups. And we can see different factors, such as tools, the investments, to support the entrepreneurship? How many projects and pilots and prototypes have been tested and integrated for the business processes or new products to be created? How much money has been invested? And I would like to say that from the point of view of participants of this market, the venture market, the corporations market, not enough. Not enough for the country to have more and more unicorns and companies to replace the living international companies. What we need for that? Lots of factors indeed. Some say that the startup, the company, is a unified substance. This is not true. It's a set of different stages of maturity of the team. Maturity of business, maturity of product. And for each stage, when we are developing the product, we need our own tool. We shouldn't hope for large state funds and foundations to support all the startups like that. Each tool has to have its own glazing on the cake. There were foundations and funds in Russia. Now we are running out of those. There are corporate funds and foundations, the Russian ones and the state funds. For the entrepreneurship to develop, we need to develop all of these tools and support them. We as a company are working both on the stage of high maturity, when we are buying startups through M&A tools and mechanisms. We are investing into growing companies up to $2 million. We are supporting the companies and startups of earlier stages when we have the prototype and there is a first version of products. We have labs in 3 cities of Russia. We have examples of successful cases, and I urge you to create more and more cases of such kinds, to support entrepreneurship, to create more technological companies. And to answer the questions, your question, to alleviate this technological dependency. Thank you for your speech and thank you for supporting startups. Now let's move to Semyon Chinyaev, the founder of 10Chat, which is positioning itself as the first business social media from Russians for Russians, and just 10 minutes ago I used it. Why import replacement has to orient itself on mentality and mindset? Can I walk a little bit? I'm frozen and I would want to work with the audience hall. Introduction first. I am owner of 2 startups. I have 2 companies. One marketplace, WBC, then 10Chat. These are Russian unicorns. We are evaluating things in rubles. I would like you to remember this new term, the Russian unicorn. Well, okay, we have something to be proud of, actually, so jokes aside. So we are rather expensive. We have grown without external investments. We are in cash out already. Speaking about what you have mentioned already, so being an interpreter, we are suggesting the same model. When we have 5%, it's either yes, some money to grow a bit. This is a model, and then you get eaten because I've seen your option contracts, and there are nuances there, there are peculiarities. And speaking about MBA with Henry Ford. So when MBA is beautiful is one thing, but there are always peculiarities. Henry Ford was the first to get the highest award from Nazi Party of Germany, and due to that 80% were the business contracts. One thing is marketing and another thing is being neglected from the state's contracts. He has been working with Nazis before, and once again business schools are teaching us to build up beautiful pictures first of all, and we as 10Chat, the business social media, we saw the blue ocean as soon as we came. So once again, Russian market. Okay, I would like to ask questions in parts. First, you want to have a director in the region. You are going to LinkedIn or Facebook, or where? Somebody is looking for some regional director. Guys, Russia is not Moscow only. It's cold already here. Let's drive 600 kilometers. There is still snow there. The director of a company wouldn't be found in social media. It would be really terrible, honestly. I have been looking for a very important person, so through RSPP. This is not LinkedIn, so this is request to RSPP. They have requested to a local organization. It was terrible, guys. We came to the market, which is being formed in Russia, anew, because LinkedIn has been blocked for several years already now. VK and Odnoklassniki. It's not about business, that's for sure. Snapchat, Twitter, this is something which is living already. In the West, there is a good model. TikTok is for fun, of course. And there is WeChat, which we can review as a model, which is astounding. And I have to think, so what we are planning to give to the startups? We are saying, once again, guys, we are free, and what is important? When each one of you wants to go to business with China, so you have to go to WeChat, of course. Yes, you just invite them through WeChat. And of course, there are links, etc. So, and of course, we need to have the marketing, etc. So the guys, if you want to work with Russian-speaking community, you can go to 10chat. Now this is ambition goal for us. Where to go? Russia has always been between East and West. We had always had our way. On one hand, we love Western social media, but on the other hand, we have our Eastern way when approaching the matter. In this regard, we have our place as an Eastern hybrid with the Western business values, at least partially. And most importantly, what will help us to take up this niche of business collaborations? It's not about having constant meetings, etc., so and covering for few people. The modern world, the modern social media should give rapid access to information as well as to people who are bringing this information for you. So we're talking about business, we're talking about transactions with business deals, etc. So how are you looking for startups, for example? Using different means? Okay. How fast can we get to you? Easily. Go to our website, startupmts.ru. So we are advertising it ourselves, so let's do the ads. Okay, MTS already owes me some money, I think. Okay. In one and the same system, we suggest to unify community, business community and state. We have the Ministry of Digital Development of Ryazan, of Smolensk region, etc. So this is the format we're testing together with them. And we came to them and we said, okay, can we contact you through state services? And they said, I don't know. So maybe. So, and we are saying, okay, and you guys, are you using WhatsApp? Are you using Telegram? And they're saying, of course. And why aren't you working with companies through messengers? And they're saying, we cannot do this. And we showed a special paper that we were authorized by the Ministry of Digital Development, and we started this pilot project. When we have this format, when you can reach out to the government very fastly. So Ministry of Digital Development is most progressive among our ministries. They're doing lots of things, and there are lots of opportunities there. And there are IT opportunities as well. So you can find me in 10chat. I hope that 10chat is going to be a very good super app, which is going to bring these capabilities for everybody. And once again, most important thing is business links. And I'm confident that we will be useful for you in this regard, and you will be useful to us, because creating this business community in Russia, which is unfortunately doesn't exist here and now, so we don't have a place to hang out. as business people. We are gathering together on Instagram. Instagram is prohibited in the Russian Federation. So, and this is very important to mention because it's dangerous otherwise. I suggest that we should be gathered in this global community where we will have most efficiency and we can find interesting people in one swipe, in one action, etc. I hope I will find you, the Director of Investments from MTS, and Koltech will be represented there. And, of course, Popular Mechanics, which was Popular Mechanics, of course, has to be with us as well. Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, I'll answer them as soon as possible. Thank you, Semyon. You were very emotional. And thank you for being that emotional. I would like to give the floor to Viktor Fokin, the Director General of Midsbit Service. And he is going to be a bit less optimistic, as I think. And he wants to speak about regulation of the markets, how market is open, whether it's open for startups or not, due to normative and regulatory base used by them.
So I'd like to see my slides here. Colleagues, good evening. Just some statistics to get started. I looked at the area which is not necessarily most advanced, neither in Moscow nor in St. Petersburg, nor in Tatarstan. I looked at Volgograd. We see that large businesses feel okay, and they're relatively stable with regard to innovations. But then we have some nuances there. Less than 3% of innovations that have really conserved their viability get to be implemented. So that comes from Roskomstat. I think those are exaggerated numbers, perhaps. Another point about statistics. This data comes from the audit chamber. 60% of innovations, as we can consider, they're not really... So they reported on them, but then after that, problems start. As you can see, the world is moving ahead, but not evenly and not always. Illusion 16 has been decommissioned, and after the MC21 has been there, but some of the things remain unchanged, and the railways, same thing. We don't have steam engines anymore. But is there a chance to create world-class, develop world-class solutions? Yes, we have those opportunities. We have some designs, some solutions, and to state that they're world-class and they are needed. We look at all those stickers. So when you spend hundreds of millions per each one of them, and we have millions for their certification, you expect implementation, but actually the enigma turned out that relative departments of relative companies responsible for innovations, they just put the mark in that box, and after that it's done. Then it's transferred to CapEx department, and they say, oh, the less we spend, the better it is. The fewer problems we have. Nonetheless, developments ideal for venture funding, and when they're scaled, all items are certified not only in Russia, but also in Europe. And German colleagues, with all their love for developments, develop a special procedure for testing. But now nobody can ask you a question that we are not complying with the requirements. So German certification is enough for all the rest. So that's why we pick those people. So when we talk about when we say smart production line or smart line, we think about it's about software, but it's about a chain of events. For a piece of software to process data, you need to get them from the production line. So you will need, besides software and the processing unit, you will need a system of gathering data temperature, vibrations, etc. You need to track parameters. You need to see that on kilometer 52, support is leaning, and nobody was able to develop such a system. And here's what happens. So we see a very small number of implementations. It's a real downfall. You don't have funds for refinancing. For the bank, you're not a good borrower because you have a poor dynamics. It's almost total collapse. Besides that, we should be prepared for the fact that you cannot comply with the standard that dates back to 1959. So your product cannot be used. We should change that standard in the country, which is not a simple thing to do. Some examples. You don't need to work in the energy sector, be an engineer to understand that larger throughput for smaller funding is good compared to other global producers. So what bus you would like to use? So pick one. You think that cable fences improve? No, barriers are road barriers are better. So instead of using cable fences, so they're used more often. We are the only ones who were able to develop cable fences for first class rows of first class. Same thing for railways. So the principle is that trains get heavier and contact network is barely able. So you need to have two cables instead of one. Things will be good. So 9% of power losses is not something that is needed there. With certified products, but the only possibility to use in any projects is also in Latin America, in United Arab Emirates. For example, when Rosatom plant is connected to local networks, is to use wires which have nothing to do with U.S. or America or China. So to correct that, to rectify this collapse, what has been said for many years and pretty much at every event, the main criterion, the criterion of a life cycle. If the existing criterion of price that is used everywhere will continue to be the key one, and we see that it is like that, there will be no development. When Subsun train will not be cheaper than a steam engine, but somehow Subsuns operate, so common sense still works, but not everywhere. And another mechanism that can breathe life into banking system, into innovations, to use borrowed funds against borrowing funds against IP. And it's part of BRICS recommendations, and it's part of other documents, in fact. And we should not reinvent the wheel here. That mechanism exists in developed countries. Why not just borrow it and use it? We don't have it for the bank. All of our developments are solutions are nothing, even though may implement some of them, even though the system is resistant. There's no compensation of certification costs. It's been removed, but it leads to collapse. We can lend you money if you have some hard contracts. If I have a hard contract with Siemens, I can get a loan from Deutsche Bank and 0.5% or do the same in the United Arab Emirates. But certifications are required for those projects. If you don't get it, you cannot even offer anything for sale. I'm sorry. Yeah, but I'm done. Sorry for interrupting you. So in that group, you can have such a colossal, unprecedented complex of support if you add XR insurance to consumer risks, because I pay all those interests and I get certificates and you have the money. Everybody's happy. Thank you. And the last speaker, Oleg Teplov from Web Ventures. We would like to discuss with him. We would like to ask this question: what industry sectors are most sensitive to import, for imports, and startups may become part of those chains and fill those gaps, or it is not really so? What risks exist as a result? Thank you so much. So wonderful, cool evening in Moscow night. So after those speeches, fiery speeches, I don't even know what I'm supposed to talk about. So what industries suffered? All sectors suffered. Some more, others less, but it's an interesting question. For the last 20 to 25 years, we lived in this paradigm that we don't need to create a fully integrated value chains. It makes no sense to do it if our colleagues or our neighbors can do it cheaper, faster, and with better quality. So microelectronics or to large-scale chemistry. So we lived in that paradigm of globalization. And now we see that the world becomes more polarized, very fast, as a locomotive that is running towards a precipice. But the problem is still there. We have many industries where disrupted chains, value chains, not logistical chains, but value chains are disrupted when some elements fell out of in creation of products, whether it's a startup or large company, because those were foreign partners, suppliers, shareholders, etc. And in fact, that problem exists. And we should work on it. In our industry, in our priorities, we see that it's quite significant. So a lot of vulnerability with industrial companies, those who worked and those who developed their production processes based on large international ERP systems and using IT as platforms, SAP, Oracle, and others. And replacing them is a major problem. We have portfolio companies from Cifra Group who may help rectify it. We have a cluster at Skolkovo that is prepared to do it. So the question was who can do it faster to overcome that disease. So a corporation that lost some elements in their production cycle and they need to find some solutions in terms of IT products, or maybe they need some resin that is used for their products, or small startups can do it. If we discussed it a year ago, I would tell you that large corporations to do internal integration is not something they're interested in, and not in terms of the process. It's not interesting in terms of the money spent, because if you talk about small tonnage chemistry, so the need of startups to have those special resins that may be produced by companies using Sibur products, but Sibur doesn't want to do it because for Sibur those resin volumes is half a percent, maybe 1/1000th of their revenues of their sales. But for multiple startups that work with composites, those resins are important. And those volumes are important. So a year ago, If you approach Sibur and ask them, can you produce that resin for us? They say, oh, we don't care about it. We don't need it. So these days, cooperation of those startups with Sibur and creation of such collaboration or a joint venture may help to do it. So the question is, who can do it faster? If startups are more flexible and entrepreneurs are more flexible in general, they're better able to provide those quick solutions, but without component basis, it's impossible, and without raw materials, it's impossible to do it. So my answer is this. The proper combination of flexibility of entrepreneurs and readiness of large corporations to do it in joint ventures can help industries, can help the sectors to replace and restore their value creation chains. So operations of Russiantech, of Beck, of reengineering, and Skolkovo startups to be able to take this market before they fall. Also vacant markets, even though we say they were small because global corporations were there. But now, so today, you can have this blue sea. So producers left, those who produced paint and lacquers for shipbuilding. So you're welcome to enter that market. Producers of medical solutions have left, or for medtech, or for portable gadgets. Okay, you're welcome to enter that space. And they think globally right away, because of the Western market or Eastern market. It's not all over the world. We have a large other major markets out there. We have portfolio companies at the plenary session, for example. So we had a person, and their company generates 90% of income on global markets. So corporate funds are a good thing. And when we transition to who will fund that party, corporate funds should really skyrocket. Because a few years ago, I remember it was an instruction of the president to create a corporate venture funds, and some treated that formally. Some corporations created them, but now the times have come. So some funds close to the state and some private funds. So that combination. This combination of minds and ideas may help replace missing links in those chains. So it's not that corporations do vertical integration, which is costly and may take a long time, and they don't have necessary competencies, but joint work of the minds at Skolkovo and our innovation in the environment, and at Skoltech, when they think about next iteration in developing those solutions. So that's the answer. Thank you so much for that. So the general tonality was optimistic, and I also look at the future with optimism. Thank you so much, dear speakers, and please talk to them. These are very cool people who are very knowledgeable. So at this, I would like to say goodbye. No. Do we have any questions? No questions. Okay. Alexander Grek, chief editor of Tech Insider, the former Popular Mechanics. Thank you so much, dear participants of the session, for this interesting discussion and for your incredible optimism that we have been missing so much in recent years. So the program of the first day gradually comes to an end, but it's not over yet. In a few minutes, we'll move to a special evening program, which is called Cinema Night. And now, whether you want or not, or hopefully you want it, I'll tell you what we can see tomorrow. Second day of Startup Village 2022 will be focusing on the development of ecosystems and technologies for import substitution. Here, the main stage speakers will present opportunities for acceleration in Asia and for growing startups until they become national champions. Alternative funding schemes for meta universes and other trends that determine data science industry development. Hyper stage will look at industrial track technologies in oil and gas sector, digital sector, innovative technology of internal youth, and switching to ERP systems made in Russia. Speakers at the center stage will discuss why researchers are needed in real businesses and how new technological companies can improve quality of life, and will discuss creative technologies. Besides that, experts will present different services for startups. They will tell you about a legal tech lab, M&A practices, and commercialization of university projects. Startup stage will be a pitch session on Skulltech projects, and then a back speech. Private businesses will present demands for startups and developers. So mark that in your calendar. We'll see you again tomorrow, the business program. And in few minutes, a long-awaited evening program for those who have been with us this first day of the conference. So, friends, if you are here at the main stage, don't go away. But in this thrilling announcement, if you are somewhere close by, we'll have a couple of minutes to make it to the main stage and take the best seats. We'll continue in a couple of minutes. Thank you for your attention.
Тела быстро теряют энергию. Но нахождение вблизи источника тепла позволяет телу получать тепловое излучение. Происходит самопроизвольное перераспределение тепла. Следовательно, когда источники тепла находятся вместе, их энергия побеждает холод. Лучшее создается вместе. Газпромбанк.
МТС Стартап Хаб. Работа с реальным бизнес-заказчиком МТС. Доступ к ресурсам самого крупного телеком-бренда в России. Не можешь поверить? А в твой стартап обязательно поверят. У нас есть все, что тебе понадобится. Ресурсы, клиенты, технологии, каналы продаж. Мы оценим твой продукт, правильно применим в своем бизнесе и масштабируем на мировой рынок. МТС Стартап Хаб ждет тебя и твоих нереальных бизнес-идей.
Я верю, что сама выбираю, какой я буду завтра. Я могу выбрать быть сильнее, быстрее, легче, а могу проиграть. Но меня это не остановит. Мой выбор — уверенно двигаться к своей цели. Верь в свой выбор. World Class.